This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, on the X-Zone TV show, coming soon to screens of all sizes. On the X-Zone TV show, we'll investigate UFOs, ghosts, alien abductions, demonic possession, psychic phenomenon, angels, lake monsters, Bigfoot, unsolved mysteries, and all subject matter from within the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, and much, much more. The X-Zone TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, www.xzonetv.com, is a rel-mar McConnell media company and Airplay Media production. Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerreonian intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to another edition of the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our main website, where you can listen to the X-Zone 724-365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Dr. Kimberly, and we're going to be talking to Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, who is a quantum healer, frequency master, naturopathic doctor, and remote viewer. She's internationally known as a frequency master, conscious creation expert, and naturopathic energy healer, and she invites you to go beyond frequency. Dr. Kimberly has been heard numerous times on You Health Revolution with Darius, The Sheila Show, The Aware Show with Lisa Garr, and on many other radio shows and international telesummits. Joining us now from Salem, Massachusetts, is Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. And Dr. Kimberly, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's great having you with us. We were trying to get you on last night. There were a few technical glitches, so you graciously agreed to join us tonight, and we're so happy to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your voyage through the various modalities that you've taken over the years to be the Dr. Kimberly that we know today.
Oh, golly. That's a little bit of a story. Well, it started out when I was a child, and I became aware that I had what they call extrasensory abilities, which I know your listening audience is very familiar with. And I have a strong empathic ability, and I discovered this because when I was a child and I would hear sirens, I would want to block out the sirens with pillows and anything I could, blankets, and put my hands over my ears. Because instantly, when I heard the sound of those sirens, whether it was ambulance or police or fire, I was literally transported to the scene and saw whatever was going on, whether it was an accident or whether it was a murder or, a young child was injured. So it was very traumatic for a young girl. You can imagine seeing these things. It was like being exposed to a lot of violent movies every night, or at least every night the sirens, roared. And so I became aware that it was really different from other children. But growing up, it didn't really become an advantage until I went to college. And people thought it was great because they could come and ask me questions about who they were going to marry and if their boyfriend was cheating on them and if they were going to pass a certain test or, what was going to happen. So they loved me in college. I was a hit. And that's when I got kind of well known for the paranormal. I got called into a couple cases in our local town. It was outside of Chicago, and there's a lot of the occult practice, seeing a lot of covens in that area. So I was called in on a few cases of actually, believe it or not, demon possession at 20 years old. I did my first exorcism. So quite the journey, and then kind of came out of that and worked for a chiropractor in broadcasting and became familiar with alternative medicine for the first time there. So chiropractic was kind of in my wheelhouse. When I had health problems in the medical community, this was when I was a young mother, couldn't diagnose, anything wrong with me. And they wanted to kind of throw some pills and say, you have to take this and this and this the rest of your life. And I'm like, we don't even know what's wrong. Why? And they said, because. And it was at that moment, I just stood there and I looked in the doctor's face and I just said no. And I'm really glad I did, because I found out a couple months later I was pregnant with one of my daughters. So I was glad I hadn't taken some of this medication because it could have harmed my baby. But I said, no, there has to be another way. And I began researching alternative methods of healing and became very interested in the use of herbs and began writing for an international magazine and became quite well known. My ex-husband and I started a mail order company, and I grew a lot of organic herbs and made my own formulas and so dispensed a lot of things around the world to people and had an in-person practice as well. Grown out of that, it became more of a nutrition practice, and I still used herbs, but I used vitamins and supplements. But what I was finding, Rob, was that I was handing people literally these grocery bags of things they were carrying out of my office. And to get what they needed, because I knew applied kinesiology, I'd been taught that by a chiropractor friend of mine, to get what they needed to bring their body to balance and to correct their problems, they had to spend $200, $300, $500. So they wouldn't be able always to spend that amount, so we'd have to figure out what they could afford. And then even if they could afford, let's say $500, they'd come back the next time and I'd see how they were doing, and they didn't quite make as much progress as I thought they had. And it was compliance. They weren't able to take the amount of things they needed to take, the amount of times they needed to take it to get well.
All right, Dr. Kimberly, please stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Exonation, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is our very special guest this hour. Her website, www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break as we continue here in the X Zone, investigating the world of the paranormal, the science of parapsychology, and all the mysteries of life. This is Rob McConnell. We'll be back in 2 minutes with Kimberly McGeorge. Don't go away. How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created nemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, on the X-Zone TV show, coming soon to screens of all sizes. On the X-Zone TV show, we'll investigate UFOs, ghosts, alien abductions, demonic possession, psychic phenomenon, angels, lake monsters, Bigfoot, unsolved mysteries, and all subject matter from within the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, and much, much more. The X-Zone TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, www.xzonetv.com, is a rel-mar McConnell media company and Airplay Media production. Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is my special guest this hour here in the X-Zone. Her website, www.KIMBERLYMcGEORGE.com. Dr. Kim, you were telling us about, how you got started in this and how people would leave with these bags of remedies, I guess we can call them. Then they'd come back and they hadn't made as much progress as they should have. Can you pick up the story from there, dear?
Oh, sure. So I'd always been taught in kind of my religious upbringings that what's called homeopathic medicine or energy medicine for the broader term, I'd kind of been taught that was, this is funny, New Age witchcraft, to be honest. So I was very reluctant to start using that, but I, for some reason, just decided it makes sense. It makes sense that there's an energetic signature of things that can kind of be distilled into a bottle.
Right.
And the whole theory that like cures like. And so I started kind of an experimenter by nature. So I started experimenting with a homeopathic medicine. And believe it or not, I got much better results with a lot less cost out of these little tiny bottles where you would take 15 drops a day. Maybe you'd have 2 or 3 bottles.
Right.
But, you take so much less, and it was so much less money. So they complied. They took what they were supposed to when they were supposed to, and they could afford it. So it worked really well. And then I had another dip in my health. And even though I was taking quite a bit of supplements, 40 or 50 a day, which is a lot, I was still searching for answers for my own personal health issues. And so I heard about this woman that lived way out in the country, and I drove out a couple hours to see her. And she had this really amazing machine. And she put me on this machine, and she said that she didn't know anything. She said this machine was going to scan my energy field and recommend what would take, basically what I was doing with applied kinesiology in my own practice, she was going to do with this machine. And so even though I was skeptical, I heard this little voice in the back of my head that said, someday you're going to do this and you're going to help a lot of people and you're going to have one of these machines. It just, I knew it. And so she put me on this machine and I had amazing results. I was able to get off most of my supplements. And I did. I went and bought one of these machines and went to the training and learned how to use it. But something didn't seem quite right in how it was being used, because how it's used, and this is the conventional way, you can go in, and I don't know how it is in Canada, but in the United States, you can go in chiropractic offices, and let's say they carry a line, I don't want to say any brand names, but let's say they carry a line of, we'll call it A supplements.
Right.
And so they want to sell these supplements. So it's what I call forcing the energy. They'll put you on the machine, and basically the unsaid question that they're asking your body or your energy field is, what in this category of supplements would you like to bring you to balance? Well, the body desperately, and your energy and your emotions and your mind and your spirit, we all know, we all seek balance. I mean, that's a huge issue in today's life. So the body's like, okay, well, if I can only choose out of these 20 things, I'll choose, maybe adrenal, and I'll choose some iron and maybe a multivitamin. And so then they will sell you those things and say, this is what the machine told you you needed. Well, here's the problem with that, Rob. There's 300,000 or more frequencies of these items in this machine.
300,000.
So what if you're offering the body 300,000 things, or even let's say there's 2,000. I mean, even if there wasn't, good. But, the body has so much more to pick for. So there's a good chance that if I give your body this choice of all these frequencies, it's probably not going to pick the brand that you're selling. There's a good chance. And so I went out of the box and I came up with my own proprietary method of testing and scanning the body, where I offer your body or your energy field a choice of all the frequencies. And this machine has what's called an output signal or an output generator. So it has the ability to beam out these frequencies. So you can make your own homeopathic blends of medicine. And most people stick to certain brands and they buy the brand and they put it in the bottle. But what I discovered is you don't have to do that. And so I started putting it in water bottles, which is a lot cheaper than buying a $20, $30, $40, $50 homeopathic bottle. And people still got well. And I'm like, I wonder if I can take this further. I wonder if I can do this long distance. Now, how can I get these frequencies? Because we know that energy has no time or space. That's why we're speaking right now, of course. So I began beaming frequencies, and I don't know how much, I'm sure you guys have had discussions about radionics.
Oh, sure.
But, beaming frequencies into pictures, experimenting of people and pets, beaming frequencies just long distance to an intended target, and experimenting with sound therapy and even silent MP3s that you can send beautifully over the computer, and people still got well. And then we applied them in a large area, not just to health, but we applied it to abundance and to love and to bringing money and to soul purpose and to so much more. And combined with my other gifts, we just kind of had this really powerful, amazing, fun thing going on.
Wow. Now you sent my senior producer an email today, and you told her that you scanned my photo.
Yes.
What was that about? Explain it to me in the Exo Nation, because you've got me curious.
I'm glad you're not mad at me, because I'm like, usually I get permission, obviously, but I thought being the amazing researcher, curiosity seeker that you are, and the openness, that
all
you
right,
have
hold on here. You've got me blushing. Okay.
Well, I thought you'd be up for this. I went ahead and took a risk, and I brought up your picture, and I even brought up your voice, which I don't need to, but I did just because I thought it might help me get into the energy faster. And I took my machine, and using myself as a surrogate, I ran your energy through me while I was testing you, and I came up with some interesting results, I thought.
All right. Let's hear what these interesting results are, my little surrogate.
All right. So the first thing that came up on you was kind of interesting. It doesn't come up a lot, and I've done thousands of these scans. Actually, a lot of people wish this would come up on them because it said you're not getting enough sugar. Can you believe that? So, or either that, or when I was testing you, it can also mean that you had a dip in blood sugar during that time and you needed sugar. So sugar is the first thing, actually fructose sugar, because the body likes a natural sugar over obviously, like a cane sugar. The next thing that came up on you is that your liver could use a nice detox, which is, again, as we know, in our toxic world, pretty common. Third thing that comes up very often, 1, 2, or 3 on people, which is a need for healthy bacteria or acidophilus, more good bacteria in your stomach. A very interesting that came up to you, and this tells me a lot about you because I know these remedies and I can read energy, but it's kind of a mystical thing that came up, which is the energy of the moon. I thought that was very interesting.
I'm sorry, the energy of the moon?
Mm-hmm. Everyone knows the moon has a very strong magnetic pole. The moon changes behavior. There's been studies done on that. But your energy field called for the energy of the moon. And that usually only happens, I'm going to tell you, Rob, in highly evolved souls or more spiritually connected people. Like the common person does not call for the energy of the moon. So good job. That was amazing that came up. Another common thing that intense, hardworking, you're one of those hardworking kind of intense people. Yeah. Zinc came up as being low. I'm going to skip to a couple other things that are more mystical just for fun.
Sure.
That came up on you. The gem tiger iron came up on you, which I thought was kind of fascinating because one of the meanings of the mineral or crystal, you might call it tiger iron, is it's for people who desire clarity and love to know the truth behind deeper issues. I thought, wow, I bet that describes you pretty well.
That sure does.
So I love that. And then a flower essence came up for you that helps you breathe life into you in a deeper way. So those are just a few things. I mean, there's some other things, but I mean, it's probably really interesting to you and I, but everyone else is probably like, I want to know what would come up for me. So,
well, if they want to find out what comes up for them, all they have to do is go to www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. It's that simple.
That's true.
There you go. You're a mom of 4 young girls. Your eldest is 21, I believe, and your youngest is 13.
Yes, sir.
As Dr. Kimberly, I kind of feel sorry for your girls because they can't pull the wool over your eyes.
No, they can't. I have a cute story. I have a really cute story about that. I was getting ready to send my oldest daughter when she was in college a skirt that I bought from a very popular store that teenagers like, and I had it in the box under some things. And my daughter, 14 at the time, she went off to school merrily, and I didn't see her leave. And a couple hours later, I walked by the table and I stopped. And well, I'm a remote viewer, so I see things a little differently than other people. And I picked up the papers and I thought, that girl wore that skirt to school. And I went down to that office. I was a little heated. And I called her into the office. I brought some clothes for her to change into. And I took her into the little nursing room. And she probably was embarrassed because I raised my voice a little bit. And I said, what part of being psychic do you not understand?
Love it.
Oh, no, they don't always like it.
You can't pull the wool over mom's eyes. Just got to be honest with her, or at least try to be as honest as you can. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. Listen, you and I are going to have to take a break very shortly. We have to take our news at the bottom of the hour. In your opinion, how, speaking about kids, you're a parent, I'm a parent. I would imagine 70% of our listening audience around the world are parents. With today's diets that kids have access to, the different chemical compositions, aspartame to name one, as a naturopathic doctor, this must drive you crazy.
It does, and we try to stay away from the extremes.
Mm-hmm.
I really teach balance in my clients and patients, and even in my family and my children. So we try to stay away from the extremes, like the fast food.
Right.
But we eat unhealthy things, but we try to stay away from, the things with a lot of red dye. And
right.
like you said, I don't allow, it's just me, no judgment, you guys, but I don't allow diet pop. I would rather than drink, I know this, I'm not recommending pop, but I'd rather than drink pop all day long that has sugar in it. Or
Dr. Kim, I hate to do this, sweetie. We've got to take our news break at about the hour. Exonation Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is our very special guest, www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. And the good doctor and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone. Don't go away. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, on the X Zone TV show, coming soon to screens of all sizes. On the X Zone TV show, we'll investigate UFOs, ghosts, alien abductions, demonic possession, psychic phenomenon, angels, lake monsters, Bigfoot, unsolved mysteries, and all subject matter from within the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, and much, much more. The X Zone TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, www.xzonetv.com, is a rel-mar McConnell media company and Airplay Media production. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com, or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. All right, just let me put down my Diet Coke and my hamburger that is filled with all this cheese sauce and everything. Just kidding, just kidding. Everybody knows I'm 100% against aspartame. I'm 100% against any of this unknown food that you cannot pronounce when you're shopping. There's nothing better, in my opinion, than a cold glass of water, as well as vegetables, berries, and, God, we've got so many great foods we can eat. I've got to tell you something, Kim. I hate fast food. I hate it.
I do too. It doesn't taste good anymore when you have if you're eating a pure diet, like it sounds like you do, Rob.
Yeah.
And, it changes your taste and you start craving different things. It's interesting.
Yeah. Stress in today's society. As a naturopathic doctor, how can we best cope with the amount of stress that everyone is under? You go to the traditional doctor, he gives you some Ativan or some other pill to take care of the symptoms without actually taking care of the problem. So as a naturopathic doctor who looks at it the other way and is more concerned with the person than the pill, how do you handle stress and those who come to you suffering from stress?
I have kind of a standard answer for that as far as a supplement I would recommend, and then I'll get a little deeper. But one of the things that comes up in 95% of the scans that I do is a need for, I was quickly looking at yours. It actually didn't come up in yours, which I'm a little surprised, but a need for, means you take care of yourself a little better, but a need for adrenal support. Because the adrenals just get wore out in modern society and we don't take care of ourselves. So often I recommend, if you can't get any physical substance or can't afford anything, and I know some people don't use animal products, but it's really interesting. The American Indians, and I assume other cultures of that nature, they actually, would consume the organ meats of the animals because they felt like that restored their energy. And so we have this long historical history of using, the adrenal gland, of animals to restore our strength. And it's pretty compatible with our adrenal glands and it helps rebuild them. So that's one thing I recommend. Another thing I recommend that's great for stress that you can easily do by adding, it's funny you said a glass of water, and I was thinking I'd add one thing to that, which is the juice of a lemon or lime. And that's great because you're getting that vitamin C, which helps your adrenal glands. You're also making that an alkaline drink to take your body away from acidity, which stress causes, and I'm sure you probably have some pH people possibly, or about it. But the thing I see that would relieve a lot of stress on a deeper level is discovering your soul purpose. And it's another thing I talk a lot about. But when you are living like you are, and you can have many, like you have, and like I have, we have many interests and we've been successful at many different things. But when you are living from the essence of why you were kind of brought here and why you are here, life becomes very different. Because if you're living from your soul purpose, maybe your soul purpose isn't to work 9 to 5 for someone else to accomplish their soul purpose. Maybe it changes. Maybe your soul purpose is to write a book, or maybe your soul purpose is to travel the world, or, volunteer, or it changes. And we get so caught up in paying the bills that we forget to just stop and say, does my life look the way that I thought it would look? And if it doesn't, what steps can I take to change that? That relieves a lot of stress. And play in your hobbies and your passions. And that can also lead you to monetizing your soul purpose. And so there's a lot. I could talk about hours and hours about stress, but those are just some of my initial thoughts.
Tell me, Dr. Kim, how does one get to know what their soul purpose is?
Again, I think most people say they would love for and mine is, and I believe yours is too, Rob, but it's when, in my opinion, when your work is play and your play is work. So when, sometimes I'm up and people know this at 2 a.m. and I'm working, but I'm not, I'm playing. And I have other interests and I know you do as well. I love spending time with my family and I love to travel and I love a lot of things. I love to read. So we all have other interests, but I am passionate about my work, and it fills me from the bottom to the top. It fills me and it fills my soul, and it gives me great joy to help people. And I believe you feel the same, but yet there are many, and we know this, that do not feel that way. You hate your job. Your job doesn't pay what you think you're worth. It's stressful. It beats your body. There's a lot of people that work hard and it beats their body and it causes stress and illness and disease and emotional upsets. And we need all kinds of jobs and we need all kinds of people. But sometimes we just got to say, you know, just because everybody else does it this way doesn't mean that's our only choice. Maybe the way we were trained and raised, that you go to school and then you go to college and then you work for a bank, and that's the epitome. One thing I share a lot is that my parents, Rob, still believe that I'm kind of a failure because I don't have a 9-to-5 job. They cannot wrap their minds around that there's another way of living.
Yeah.
You know, they can't.
You know, I understand exactly what you mean. I've been through that myself, and I still go through that with my parents. God bless them. They're in their mid-80s. You know, it seems as though there are those who believe that unless it's 9 to 5, you don't have a job. Like my mother still can't understand if I do radio. How can that be a job? You're talking.
That cracks me up, and I'll tell you why, because I used to be in radio as well, and I have my own small little radio show. Nothing amazing like yours.
Oh, I don't know. I've heard yours. It's darn good.
Yeah. But I started out way back. I had an undergraduate degree in communications, and I worked in Chicago radio when I was 20. And I used to say back then, especially for a woman, Rob, I used to say, how amazing is this that a woman gets paid to sit there and talk? Like, who would ever think, you know?
My gosh. You know, we're talking about things that affect people. We talked about stress. We talked about basic, you know, I touched on aspartame, but with all the data that kids and everyone is getting inundated with today because of the iPhone, the iPad, the internet, information is sent and received instantaneously. We're learning many more things that we would never have learned before because of the computers. The social media is being used as a recruitment for terrorism. How is this all affecting people? Are we built to be the receptors of all this information at such a high speed?
It's interesting you say that, because one of the things that does come up a lot and that I usually put in as a base frequency is a detox from radiation. So first of all, on a just basic level, we're getting a lot of radiation from our macro environment, but we're also getting a lot of radiation from our micro environments. I mean, listen to me. I'm sitting within, you know, a cell phone, a tablet, a computer. I'm looking around for something else. I think there's another computer laying behind that. I'm one to talk, but you know, our body needs a break from that. And again, I love that stress piece, because that's why we have to get out in nature. And you know what? You might not like to walk, but maybe you like to bike. And even if you just drive, you know, out in nature and get out and look, I mean, there's just something about being out in nature that removes you from a lot of that. But the bigger concern to me is actually the programming. And everything can be positive, but the same things that are positive usually have a flip side.
That's right.
What I'm so concerned about is the media programming I see going on with our young people. And they're growing up believing things that aren't necessarily true by watching what they watch and listening to the music that they listen to. And I now I'm going to get a little metaphysical, but to me, it really plugs in our children. Now that you see 3-year-olds and 2-year-olds in restaurants in their high chairs, like, it blows my mind. They have tablets, Rob. Can you imagine?
Yeah, well, you know I have to shake my head and wonder what is wrong with the parent, for God's sake. Instead of giving the child a tablet because you're too busy on your tablet or your iPhone, instead of communicating and spending quality time with your child, what is wrong with parenting today?
Wow, I love that. And that is such a great point. And I'm not perfect, but I try to break away from some of that. And we do I have all daughters, and we do what's called Mommy Daughter Day. You know, they're teenagers. Yeah. They probably don't like that term, but it kind of carries over. But where we go out and we do something that they'd like to do, and we sit across from each other and we look each other in the eyes, and I just try to connect. Yeah. Because everyone's so connected with their choice. But the danger, just to finish my thought, is they're so plugged into what I call 3D reality. And 3D reality is a created reality of kind of what we were talking about. Some of that programming, you do this and you do this and you do this and you play small and you don't take risks and you don't have big rewards and you don't think a lot about your spirituality. And there's a lot that's great about this world we live in, but there's some dangerous things too.
You know, it's pretty sad when you go out to certain the restaurants my wife and I go to, and you see the families sitting there or a group of friends sitting there. They're not communicating anymore. Their eyes are down, and they're texting, or they're doing something else instead of spending quality time with the people that are there.
I've seen people, young people, 20-year-olds or 20 college or high school couples on dates where I don't even know why they're on a date. Like, they're wasting their money, in my opinion, and their time. They're sitting across from each other. They're both on their individual phones. And I've observed them saying nothing for like half hours at a time.
Yeah.
What? I mean, it's just crazy.
You know, I love what you're doing with your daughters, because my wife does that with our sons. It's called date night, and Laura does the same thing with our sons, and she also does the same thing with our grandchildren. So it's date night, and it's so wonderful to see the bond that is still there. And when the kids come home, they leave their electronic gadgets by the door.
I love that.
You know, you come to see us. You come to see us fine. If you want to use your electronic gadgets, well, then use them when you're not here.
What a cool grandpa you must be. I would love to have you for my grandpa. I'd be like, tell me a story. Yeah. I mean, you got a million stories.
Yeah, and, you know, it's just like my girls. My goodness, the youngest daughter, Belinda, who now has a little 3-year-old, one of her own, you know, she still comes over, and they change from a mom adult to that little girl again. And, you know, the hugs are there. And, you know, if I'm sitting down, she'll plop herself on my knee. Mind you, she's gained a few pounds since when she was a little girl. But they know that mom and dad are always there. And I think that in today's society, more than ever, the family bond must be brought back to a point where it is the apex of the family. Have breakfast together. Have lunch together if you can. It's a must that you have supper together and you communicate. I don't mean have supper in the same house in different locations. Have supper at the kitchen or dining room table. Exchange what you've done during the day. Talk about what your hopes, your dreams, and aspirations are. Communicate. Make that bond. Secure that bond. Strengthen the bond. Because heaven knows that in society and in time, you'll learn the hard way that the real bonds that you have in life were formulated at that table.
That's good. And I would suggest one other quick thing is my 18-year-old came up to me the other night and she said, can we have family game night? We have family, I know that sounds so old-fashioned. We have family game nights. We play card games and, you know, board games and we have my parents over and we play games. And I grew up like that and I really love that. So I think it's neat that my girls get something out of that they'll actually ask for it. So that's another idea for your listeners.
Sad part, and this is true, many municipalities are planning on cutting out recreational parks because less and less people are using them. Can you imagine that?
I believe it, unfortunately.
Like, don't kids play baseball anymore? Don't they play football anymore? Don't they play street hockey? Whatever happened to the good old days?
I know. Skin knees on the playground foursquare. Yeah. I miss it, you know?
Now, as a naturopathic doctor, this is healthy for kids. I don't understand how anyone can rationalize sitting in front of a television set for 4 hours after school and playing these, what some people call games, Grand Theft Auto and everything, where you get points for killing people. how this can be better for a child than going out in the fresh air, burning off, built up energy. What's wrong with society? Is it me or is the world going crazy?
No, I think we're considered the crazy ones now, and the rest of the world thinks that's perfectly fine. One thing I want to mention that comes up in the scans a lot with children and adults, which shocks people, is a need for ultraviolet light, which I think is so interesting and ties in with what you're talking about. We aren't in the sun enough. That's one way to get ultraviolet light. And your energy field is so electrical. It needs light. And when we're inside and doing all these games and on our tablets and on our computers, we don't get that light, that natural light either.
Dr. Kimberly, great having you with us. Please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exo Nation, tell me what you think. Send an email, exon@exonradiotv.com. And if you'd like more information on Dr. Kimberly, visit her website at www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. That's www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this short break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, Exo Nation, you can always listen to the X Zone 724-365 by going to our website at exonradiotv.com. Or, speaking about telephones, dialing 213-401-0080. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Kimberly McGeorge and I will be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
What if someone told you you could live to be 120? Would you believe him? What if he told you the Bible guaranteed it? All you needed to do was follow his rules and buy his products. Would you do it? What if you invested 20 years of your life in him? What if he tested his substances on your child? What if your child became brain damaged as a result? Meet Dr. Tyler Belknap, a fast-talking Texas admin turned health guru. At the helm of a vast health food and supplement empire, he has established himself as the authority on nutrition and longevity. But what his followers don't know is that his products are laced with bizarre psychoactive substances from genetically modified plants developed in his very own secret lab. No wonder his customers can't stop using them. Tyler Belknap will stop at nothing to keep his edge in the market, even if it means experimenting on children. Chasing 120, a story of food, faith, fraud, and the pursuit of longevity, a novel from the pen of political cartoonist Monty Wolverton, is an easy and entertaining read full of rich characters and intrigue. It hits home in a world filled with all kind of hucksterism and offers a glimpse of what can happen when GMO technology falls into the wrong hands. Chasing 120 by Monty Wolverton. Get your copy today at www.ptm.org/120 or on Amazon.com.
Nita Hickok is an expert in exorcisms, psychic warfare, soul healing, angelology, soul retrieval, demonology, energy healing, long-distance healing, astral healing, and much more. Nita is an interfaith minister because she believes all gods and goddesses are valid and that they are part of one divine force that is incomprehensible to us who are incarnated upon this earth. Nita has been doing astral healing, distant healing, spirit release, exorcism, house cleansing and blessings, soul restoring and revival, psychic vampire removal and curse removal, and much more for over 40 years. For more information or to contact Nita Hickok, visit her website at www.astralhealer.com. That's www.astralhealer.com.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is our very special guest this hour, www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. Dr. Kim, it's been a great pleasure having you on the show, but tell our listeners about your show.
Oh, my show. This is kind of a funny story, too. It's called The Secret to Everything. And my children always say, they're like, Mom, do you know that you are not the secret to everything? And I'm like, that is so funny. You guys are so funny. So The Secret to Everything is based off a book I wrote that's an Amazon Kindle book called The Secret to Everything, Manifesting the Life You Desire Now. So the radio show kind of came out of the book.
Uh-huh.
And I have to tell you, I'm sure you know this, but, I used to be in radio a long time ago, and they say once you get bit with a radio bug, like, this is a weird saying, but that you always have it, and it has been true consistently. So I've always felt pulled back to radio, and I love it, and I love having amazing guests on. But The Secret to Everything, a lot of times, sometimes we talk about, like you do, subjects that I like to talk about, which is the privilege of having your own show.
That's right.
But we interview quantum healers and paranormal people and talk about controversial topics, health topics, alternative health, a little bit of everything. Sounds kind of familiar, but kind of like what you do, but on a little smaller level. But I really enjoy it. And we have live calls, so people are able to call in and ask their questions.
We used to have live calls. And what I love about the way that we've reformatted is I can spend the time with my guest. I'm kind of selfish that way. Mm-hmm. Because when you're talking to a guest, and you know this better than a lot of people, you want to you want to get into the conversation, and then you've got to take a call, and that call could bring you right out of the ball field into another playing field, and that call, your thought never gets completed. So there are times when I miss callers, but there are times like tonight when I'm really happy I can spend one-on-one time with you. What is the message, Kim? What is the message, Kim, that you would like to leave with the X Zone Nation tonight? What are your final thoughts?
One of the most important messages, and I was guilty of this for many years in my life and at different, when I was in a bad marriage and, when I was struggling financially at times and when I was at different points in my life, one of the things I was always looking for was someone or something to rescue me. And so one of those moments that we talked about where your life changes and really goes a different direction was when I realized, I can wait the rest of my life to change my life, but nobody's coming. Like, nobody cares more about my life than I do. So I need to take the reins and gather the reins, and I need to study, and I need to learn, and I need, whatever your beliefs are, I need to pray, and I need to figure this thing out because we only have so many years, and I personally want to live the most amazing, fun, exciting, and of service to mankind life that I can. And so, I'm thrilled that I figured it out for me, and the way I figured it out may not be the way anyone else figures it out, but I encourage you to we have so many distractions, like you talked about, Rob, with all the media and this, and we're so busy. But you've got to take that kind of a sacred space sometimes and check in and say, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And so that's what I'd like to leave you with, that it's going to really ultimately come down to you. And
after all, if you can't love yourself, no one else can. And if you can't make yourself happy, no one else can either. Kim, I want to thank you so much for joining us. A great pleasure. We look forward to the next time that you join us back here in the X Zone. So until then, my good friend, take care of yourself. Regards to the four little ladies. And it's been a great pleasure having you on the show.
Oh, much love to you and your audience.
Take care, Dr. Kim. X-Zone Nation, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge has been our guest this hour. What a great lady. www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. That's www.KimberlyMcGeorge.com. I'll be back on the other side of this news break at the top of the hour. I'll be back at 6.5 minutes past the top as we continue here in the X-Zone, where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. We'll be right back.